Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Monday, June 11th. This will serve as our chart lesson today, and we had a nice downtrend. You can see we had this trend line here. We finally got a little break with a move to a new low. Then we had this correction. It's really just a trading range. It lasted from, say, 10 o'clock to about a little after noon, and then the second leg started to the downside. My guess, I'll be honest with you, I was looking for a measured leg, and I'm still thinking we may get it. You don't want to be trading on this thought process, but just something to watch for. There's leg one, then you got a little correction in there. And if this indeed holds up, we're probably looking at prices heading towards the 1290 area. And let's just look back across here. And you can see there's quite a bit of support at 1300 there. And then we had some resistance at 1290 that's never really been tested real well. So we may be, that's just, that's just another clue to look for. We may be headed in that direction. We just kind of have to see how it works out. But let's talk about the trades. There's a huge storm brewing here. I hope I don't lose any power or lose you before we get through this thing today. But it is really, really storming here outside. But let's just start with these trades and try to get through this before the storm gets any worse or before maybe something crazy happens. But we had a nice double top setup right here at 8:30 coming off the trend line, and the trend line was running right down through here. And let me just back out a little more so we can see this a little better. And this was the first setup, and this is just a double top across here. Move this up here, you can see that double top, and it's the main thing is it's a pullback to the trend line that we've already tested several times across there. And get this back down here in place. But hopefully you can see that it's same thing as a double top as well. We really had a little trading range. We broke lower, failed, we broke higher, failed, and then it was kind of off to the races. This should have been easy to find simply because of the trend line right here. And if you saw this, it was a great setup. You would have entered right here, or at the very least entered right here below this very bearish bar coming off. Actually, this was the better bar because we hadn't touched quite yet, but you could have gone ahead once this touched and had your, because this is a little doji that failed out the top of this double top here. And again, hopefully you can see that little double top we had, and we kind of broke just a tick or two higher and failed, and then prices turned down. So you could have gone short below this little bitty doji that's at the top of the resistance area, but it's usually better to wait for a trend bar in your direction. But either way, you should have entered there or there. But either way, your runner would have been good, and your entry at the very worst would have been around 1327 something, and this ran all the way down to 1313. So that's an easy 10 plus points you could have made on that single trade. And then you got another entry right here, same thing. Your runners didn't go quite as far. You probably would have gotten stopped out eventually on this one. But this is just a second entry short during a two-legged pullback to the EMA and the trend line. That's our bread and butter trade, easy move, and it was good for from 33 something down to, I'm sorry, I take that back, 22 something, maybe 23 down to about 20. So that's a good 3 or 4 points you could have got out of that one. Here we are again, just another two-legged pullback, one leg up, pullback, second leg up, back to the EMA, the trend line. We got a little bit of a break of the trend line this time, but there's your setup right there, second entry short, and another easy trade for another 3 or 4 points. If you entered here on this one, which you should have, your runners would have been safe and good for another 14 to a little over 20 points. So another 7 or 8 points right there, 6 or 7 points anyway. So it was a nice setup. There was actually a second entry short here as well. I didn't mark this one because of the fact that we had this little double bottom. We did have a trend line break. We did have a new low. So it was kind of risky. If you took it, that's okay. It was a good setup. It's very rare that these setups fail. And when they do, they usually go enough to get your scalp and then fail and turn up. So if you took that trade, it's okay, but I didn't mark it for the reason, again, I'll repeat that. We did have a trend line break here, and we did have a new low in place, so it was starting to get risky to go short any further right there without a little bit better setup, in other words. So so that was the reason I didn't mark that one. But by the time we came back here, we got another second entry short. We've got a double top that made a lower high right here than this one, and so then I'm thinking we're probably going to get another leg like this one right here. And so the setup is a little bit more tempting than the previous one. Actually, I'm measuring the wrong one. Let's measure this one. And that's pretty much the downtrend right there. And you can see we kind of got that and hesitated and then broke a little lower, then retested that, and then that's when the correction started. So and that's generally what you want to see. You want to see it test the new lows a couple of times and fail and then reverse, and then you might think about going long. And there actually were some longs here because for that fact, but none of them are really great setups, and there's just lots of overlapping bars, so I did not mark them. It was better not to go long in here, and so I didn't mark them. And with this kind of a downtrend, we're looking, you know, and especially the fact that now we're not really, there's no real rejection of prices down here. As you can see, there's a lot of overlap. Prices are hanging around. That's not good rejection. You want to see rejection before you start to think about getting long. There was a little rejection right here that looked like it was going to be rejection that quickly failed, and there was a setup right here to go long. There was actually a setup right here, and they both would have worked, but they just weren't great setups, so that's the reason I did not mark them. If you saw them and took them, they weren't wrong. They're just not the high quality setups that we want to take to ensure that we're going to make money and not have a losing trade. They're a little bit more risky. Sometimes the big paydays come from the riskier trades, but in my opinion, you're better off to wait for the key entry points and the trades that set up that have a higher probability of making us money. So, but anyway, you got a second entry short right here, one leg pull back, second leg up. And also we had this trading range, as you can see across here. There's a nice trading range, and this is a failed breakout, so you figure prices are going to come back and test it. So you could have gone short right there. It was, by the time it got to here, it was too late, and there's too many overlapping bars, but you should have been short right here because this was a good setup, and figuring that prices are probably going to try to test these lows again, and that's exactly where, at the very least, you figure we're going to test the breakout area right here, and you see we went much further lower than that. So this was another nice easy trade, and then this was a failed, or this is actually a second entry short, but it was a second entry long that broke above the previous high and quickly failed and closed back down in here where all these other highs were, and so it's a second entry short. Again, you could have gone short there or here, and it was a little too risky by the time it got to here actually, so you really wanted to go short here because you're getting back too close to this breakout. And by that time you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 overlapping bars, and you see what happened when it broke lower here. It kind of tried to bounce even though it went on lower, and it did get, because it was a second entry short right there and it was a failed break above these kind of double top here, this made this okay to enter right here. But you got to make sure you got enough room to get out, and once, if you didn't enter there, you're too far down here. So it wasn't a really good entry except for right below that bar right there. There's your signal bar. There was another entry over here because there was a trap, but again, by the time the trap set up, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 overlapping bars. So really just not a great setup right there either. So I did not mark that one. If you saw it and took it, that's one thing, but it's not a great setup. This one was right here because it's a really bearish bar. It's a second entry short, and you're figuring prices are coming down here to test this again, and it was off to the races, and this was another nice entry. And hopefully your runners, if you took this, I was not trading by this time, but I believe your runners were safe here if you took this trade. And I believe they were, and this was good for another bunch of points right here, probably 14, probably at least 10 plus points right there. And you can see we're trying to work lower still. I'm still thinking that we're going to get a target that's equal or somewhat equal to that first leg probably. We'll see, but don't be trading on that alone. Follow the price action and go with whatever it's telling you, but that's just clues of what to be looking for. So that was pretty much it for the day, and Again, that was kind of what your trading range. And this little double top here is just a breakout pullback to retest this breakout area right across here. And when we tested it twice there and it held, that was another reason that you could go short right there. And then we finally broke higher and failed. And so then you figure we're coming down here to at least test this. But notice how we broke lower. And this is how you trade a breakout. You don't want to be getting short right in here, because this is what's going to happen. Prices are probably going to fail and at least come back to test that. And look where the bottom was here, right where the closes were. And look how we tested that twice and it failed. So that's a great short setup right there. It's a second entry short. Just backing out where you can see it right here. And you see that double top retesting that double bottom right there. And so that's 2 tries, and plus we got the trend line that we tested. So that's a great setup right there. It did bounce back pretty quickly, but that's because we're in this trading range. But there was enough room to scalp out, I'm pretty sure. Let me just verify that. 1175, and you see you were already out before it bounced. It was just enough, and that's the way these trades work. Even it's amazing how many times a second entry shorted during a pull back to the EMA or the trend line, how many times it gets just enough ticks, which is 6 ticks, to scalp out with a limit order. And that's exactly what you got before it bounced, and then it went on lower. And because we made this lower high, this is as good as a breakout pullback short, but it's really much too late in the day to be trading right here, so nothing else marked after that point. And then look, here's another double two-legged pullback to the EMA entry right there, and look at that beautiful trade. I mean, those things, it's too late in the day really to be risking that kind of trade. But if you see a two-legged pullback to the EMA or the trend line with the trend, you just about have to take them all. And sure, sometimes one of them are going to fail, but if you take them all, so many of them work. I'd say 85 to 90% of the time, they work so well that if you take them all, you're going to make money. And it's just as simple as that. Now, once you get into trading range like this right here, anything's possible, but as long as the market's still trading, and you can see that was really the last one right there before we started working kind of upward or in this trading range, and it worked too. And then the very next one was right here, and it worked, and then this one worked. So I don't think any of them failed today. None of them failed. Even the one I was hesitant to mark right here worked. And that just shows you how well those trades work. So learn to spot those. Again, two-legged pullbacks to the EMA in a trending market. And it's the same thing when we're working to the upside. And this is not an uptrend here. Look how flat this EMA is. This is just a trading range. And notice how you can't really find any real direction. That's a good clue that we're just in a trading range. And so learn to spot those. And I would say that's probably it right across there. But that's pretty much going to do it for today. I'm going to wrap it up. Just a reminder, I'll do it each day during the videos, is that I will be leaving for Brazil on Friday, and so I'll probably take off Thursday as well. So there won't be any videos for 2 weeks. Once I leave, I'll be gone for about 10 or 12 days, and it'll probably take me a day or two to get back and get caught up. So it'll be at least a week and a half to 2 weeks before I get back and we start having chart lessons. So if you don't see any, that's why. I'm out of town and out of the country, and we'll start it back as soon as I get back, and we'll probably do one through Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll just have to see how the week goes. But I'm going to call it a day. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Hope you had a good trading day, and we'll see you tomorrow.